Hello YouTube, welcome to today's video. Hope you're having a great day. Today I want to review the Carpio G 2.0, quite a lengthy name. So for this we will actually use my hand cam a little bit bigger. This is not a first impression, this is 1 week after using the Carpio, and I'm having grown quite fond of it to the spot that I think that it's really an awesome product and I would really highly recommend it. Now, what is the Carpio 2.0? Let's do the unboxing first. It comes in a neat little box, very cool box, all sides of it, and if you pull this latch, it slides out into both directions, like this. So you get the top thing. There's a video you should watch because this is how to use, and you get the Carpio itself, a small travel bag, and I know it's too dark, I'm very sorry, and a sticker you can put anywhere you like, hopefully not on the mousepad, that would be really strange. Yeah, so apart from this cool box, what do you get? Mainly, of course, you get this cool device, this one. It has a magnetic latch on the left side. So the first thing I didn't know it was magnetic, then I thought, it returned, and then I ripped it off and I thought I broke it, but it's actually magnetic, so you can just unattach it and remove it. On the other side, you have the adjustable length thingy, so you can change the distance according to your sensors. I will come to this feature in a second. On the top, it has some rubbery material which you put onto your hand, and on the bottom you have the PTFE feet, which are basically the same that you have underneath your mouse, basically the same material. And this is, of course, put the PTFE bottom and the rubber material up, don't put it backwards, otherwise it will not slide. So like this, and then you put your hand right onto it. Now it's important that this is below your wrist, not somewhere in between on your forearm or wherever, but actually on your like the portion of your wrist that would connect with your mousepad if you hold a mouse. Put the Viper Ultimate as reference. So if you hold the mouse like this, this part touches the mousepad, and instead of this thing touching the mousepad, give me a second, so it would look like this on the mousepad, and instead you put the Carpio between. So you untouch the latch, put your hand onto it, reattach the latch, so you can also just lift your hand, then you grip your mouse like this, and then the Carpio is on the pad instead of your direct wrist. This is, of course, basically the entire thing. Now, why is this so awesome is a question. And it truly is really awesome, this product. So I want to now next, so this was just basically the short unpacking, and then what is it, why would you use it? So in theory, this thing is designed to reduce wrist strain, to reduce the fatigue, to reduce the carpal tunnel syndrome, to reduce the risk of repeated strain injury, like RSI, like all the injuries typical gamers can develop if they have bad technique on their mouse. And this product is supposed to help with that, but that is not the reason why I recommend it and why it's so awesome. And the thing is, I do not have any wrist problems, so I really cannot say anything about the medical aspect, if it works or not whatsoever. I really have no clue. Why is this so awesome for me? It's an entirely different story. So in the past, I was a palm grip aimer. I held the mouse like this, and I was basically using my entire arm to aim, and I transitioned to fingertip aiming. Like I got the HHK Pro. Like of course, first I used it on the Viper Ultimate fingertip grip. Then I transitioned to this small, very small mice, which holds more like a pencil. So you have the freedom of movement. And with this, you basically in aiming works as follows: you move your hand, and then you make a micro adjustment somewhere. So for example, I move my hand to the left. Can I put this to free play? I have no idea what I just started. I just want to put it to free play. So it really doesn't matter what we play. Let's load a random scenario. So like this. Okay, so right. So I move my arm to the left, and then I make a micro adjustment onto the target. Of course, with such big targets, you don't need much of a micro adjustment. Your arm movement is enough. So maybe I should have loaded an actually smaller target scenario. let's use this one. So you make a big flick with your hand and with your arm, and then you make a micro adjustment with your wrist. Or with your wrist and fingers, I have to say. Of course, if it's vertical motion, you use your fingers mainly. If it's a horizontal motion, you use your wrist mainly. Like there's a small movements possible with each, but yeah, well. Now the thing what happens is, especially if you have a sticky mousepad like the Glorious Helios, like the SkyPad, what happens is that your hand will stick onto the pad. So you can see like this, if I move my hand now to the side, you see that this skin is kind of stuck to the mousepad. So I move it to here, I have a smooth motion, but if I need to move further, I kind of have some static friction that I need to overcome, and then I can start gliding. And this static friction makes micro corrections really bothersome. It is also kind of a similar problem on cloth mouse pads, even though not the same, that you can still kind of wobble around. Well, part of your skin is still stuck to the mouse pad or not moving with your hand evenly, and then you kind of have like this rubber band motion, like this. So, and now I use the Carpio basically to make this movement consistent. So if I move to the right, no skin is sticking, I move my entire arm. The second advantage is it's hard to show like this. Let's take the packaging of the G-Wolf's mouse. This is the G-Wolf's ACHK Pro. This is a package from it. So usually your entire arm lies flat on the table, like this. With the Carpio, your wrist is raised, so your arm starts floating. So it now has 2 contact points instead of the entire length of your underarm. Even though, while you still can put pressure and weight onto the Carpio. So you don't need to lift up your arm, so it's not like a shoulder motion, like this would be very unhealthy, but instead you can still fully press your hand down, and even with full force pressing, it's still very smooth, very glidey. And this is really the big advantage why I like this product. So this is basically just how the aim looks like. Arm motion and micro correction, arm motion, micro correction, and like this. Okay, just a very brief demonstration. I have also recorded my very first impression, like first training in Overwatch, the first time I used it. And I have to say, you have to get used to it 1, 2, 3 days until you get fully used to it, and then it becomes really awesome. It really becomes awesome to the point that you forget it, that you actually have it on your hand. And you kind of to the point that you kind of risk losing it because you just leave your computer, you leave it on because you forgot that it's there, basically. So, there are, now let's discuss different mice, different mousepads. First thing I have to say, I don't have the G502 right now, but I will still use the Razer Wireless. If you have a palm grip and you use this thing, it becomes a little bit awkward because basically your, how to say it, your mouse feels different. You would basically require a mouse with a bigger hump in the back and roughly also higher buttons in the front. You can get away with high buttons in the front. But with a flat mouse like the Razer Viper, it becomes really strange to palm grip this. So if you are a palm grip gamer, this might be really awkward. It kind of feels like if your hand would be resting on the back of your mouse, not on the mousepad, because then you have also the Teflon feet, it would basically be the same, more or less. It still kind of works, but you have to get used to the feeling of it, because the back of the mouse is not touching your palm or your wrist as you are used to, and you have to really figure out if the mouse form you currently have still fits the Carpio. And this is something I really cannot tell in advance. It depends really a lot on the mouse. From my experience, or from what I think is like the mouse with a very bulky back, like if it goes kind of high in the beginning and then goes tapers down, this type of mouse you can still kind of rest very well into your wrist with a Carpio. But if you have something like a flat curve and a really thin mouse, like the Razer Viper, it's like a very flat mouse compared to other ones, you might get different results than with pure palm grip. It's close to claw grip, because if I push now this mouse, if I claw grip it push the mouse to the back, it's now not hitting my wrist, it's hitting the Carpio. So the feeling and stability is a little bit different, but it's still kind of working. But again, you just have to get used to it with the mouse you're using, and which mouse is comfortable for you might change. Which form you like might change. with the G Carpio. So in general, I would recommend this most to fingertip enjoyers. Okay. So with fingertip mouse, like the ACHK Pro 4K from G-Wolf, pure fingertip mouse, you hold more like a pencil than a mouse. You get now really advantages, and the things you get advantages on both types of pads. Hard pads, which are really floaty, and cloth pads. Now for this next part, let's actually use a sleeve. You know, usually with hard pads or the SkyPad 3.0, usually use a sleeve. So let's use this one as well here. So usually it would look like, so here's a sleeve. So usually it would look like this, basically that you have now a sleeve. And then again, with the sleeve, you get a very even glide on your mousepad. It's not you remove the part where your skin sticks to the mousepad, and you get a very good results on a fast mousepad. The problem with fast mousepads is you kinda start getting floaty. What this means is that you basically never stop the mouse, but you always keep small movement, and you never fully stop because it's so sensitive to movement. They basically always keep moving. Now this problem gets bigger the heavier the mouse is. So then it would basically look like this, that you basically always float to a target, and you're very fast in floating, but you kind of get problems in stopping power with the sleeve. Because, again, these floaty mousepads are very good for tracking, but really not so good for stopping power. Okay, this is how it looks like with the sleeve. Now, instead of the sleeve, what you get with using the G Carpio, you get that you can basically have a uniform friction on your wrist regardless of your pressure. So regardless if you press strong or weak, you get kind of the same pressure on the mousepad, the same feeling, and that means you can basically move your hand freely and then anchor it. And the floatiness basically is reduced this way. So because you actually get now a good and easy to use anchor on your wrist, and then you can use your wrist and fingers freely. This is the main advantage of the G Carpio, I would say, on a hard pad. Now on a soft pad, I will show it later in another clip. I used the Aqua Control Plus 2. You get the advantage that your wrist is independent, has independent friction from your mouse, which means even if you kind of slightly lift your mouse, you don't need to press the mouse down. Instead, you can press your wrist down to get the anchor, and that makes the mouse motion very evenly. So if you track with your wrist, so make a big flick with your arm and then track with your wrist, you get a very even result. So it's a little bit different advantage than on the hard pad, but it's the advantage nonetheless. So regardless of which mousepad type you have, as long as you have fingertip grip, I really recommend the G Carpio to use. That's mostly for my review about the G Carpio. If you have any questions, feel free to write it down in the comments. If you got some new information, if you had some questions, if you answered, if you liked the video, feel free to give it a thumbs up. If you disliked it, if I had some misinformation, give it a thumbs down. And if you want to see more aim content, just leave me a zap. I will do more videos about aiming, especially with the G Carpio, with the ACHK Pro 4K. So if you want to see more videos like that, leave me a subscribe to the channel. And if you want to see the aim execution, join me live on Twitch. I'm there streaming, sometimes a little bit, mostly Overwatch, but sometimes also some aim training stuff. So if you have questions, you can also ask me live to stream. And thank you very much for watching. See you next time. Bye bye.